Welcome to Read Between the Lines, a book podcast. I am your host, Molly Southgate, and today I'm interviewing
Supriya Vani.
Hi there, how are you today?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, can you tell me about your books?
Well, my first book is known as Battling Injustice, 16 Women Nobel Peace Prize Laureates. And the second book is Jacinda Ardern, Leading with Empathy. It's about the Prime Minister of New Zealand. And the first book is about the stories of all the Nobel Peace Prize winners. I have interviewed all the living Nobel Peace Prize winners, the Women Nobel Laureates. And it's about their hard work and, what all they did in their life to get what they are today. The Nobel Peace Prize, which happens to be the biggest prize in the world. And, what all odds they faced in their lives, what all difficulties they faced in their lives, and how they catapulted themselves from that kind of situation to get the biggest prize in the world. And I covered from Alfred Nobel, how he got the idea of actually introducing the Nobel Peace Prize. So actually covering Lincoln also a bit. So because it was during the time of Jane Addams. He's an American Nobel Peace Prize winner, Jane Addams, who happens to be a role model for Barack Obama as well. So she's no more, she died 100 years ago, but all I'm saying about the influences of these ladies, in the American society, because America is all about compassion and eating together, helping. And Jane Addams' story kind of relates to it.
That is so incredible. So because we're mostly going to talk about the Jacinda Ardern book, but before we go there, can you tell me a little bit more about what it was like to interview all of the women for that book?
Sure. I interviewed Malala Yousafzai. I was in UK and the moment I saw Malala, she was so kind and very grounded. And her parents also were there. Her parents, Zaudin and Torpakai, we were in UK, and then all the other Nobel laureates. See, it was very difficult also, to be very honest. Some of the interviews were a little easy, but some were very difficult. Like some of them, I had to go to the war zones to actually get those interviews because that was not possible to do. So I had to go to the war zones and really interview those, and I could hear the bullets, behind me, all the gunshots and all. So, but I was adamant that I'm here to interview a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and sometimes it just takes a heavy toll on your mind. But it's just about seeing the world in a very different perspective, because I wish to inspire every young girl on this planet, because they are, in like school and in colleges, there is so much of groupism today. And they just try to, I know this thing because I give talks at universities. So I know this thing, there's a lot of groupism in schools and college, and they try to, sideline some people, or like some girls or some boys for that matter. So through my books, I try to inspire them that we are all enough and we are all capable. I'm telling them stories of these laureates that look, your life is so good, and look at their lives. They were fed less than a dog, and still they did not give up, and they were in war zones having nothing to eat, but still, it's just, the inspirational content of it, to actually spark that light in them, which they already have actually. But my job is to tell them, hey, you have it, and just to make them see that they have it.
Yeah, that is so, so incredible. When you were starting to write that book, were you going in anticipating like, okay, I'm going to be in these war zones, I'm going to be in these dangerous situations, or did you kind of figure that out during the writing process?
I actually never thought that I would turn up to be an author. That was never part of my plan. I am like a bird, Molly, and I feel like I need to share stories. I need to talk about compassion because I want to normalize compassion. I want to normalize these human values which we don't talk about, and all we talk about who's having a new flashy iPhone or a flashy laptop. The world is so materialistic these days, and they're forgetting those little joys, or maybe chasing a butterfly for that matter, isn't it? Because that's the nature, and the more you get in touch with the nature, and then you feel happy. So, and then at that time I was like, okay, so I had my first interview, and I was adamant to get that lady, and she was in a war zone, and I said, okay, so how do I do this? So, and then trying to get visa for that country was like incredibly difficult, because there are not actually a lot of flights to there. But yeah, I had made up my mind that I need to understand why this lady is fighting for peace or for democracy, or. And then so many other countries, I like went and I tried to, they're all from different parts of the world. Some, one Nobel laureate is from Guatemala, one is from Pakistan, that's Malala, one is from, one is from Iran, one is from US. They're like a couple of them, but their all stories are different. They were all brought up in a very different financial thermostat, but yet they all fought equally. But the battles were different because some were actually fighting against the dictatorship rule in Africa and having no food to eat, and literally, and then working on peace and doing peace of work. So I think it just comes down to the point that when I started interviewing these people, I thought, oh my God, this is remarkable. I have to share it. I have to write about it. I have to write about it. Okay, so how do I? And then my only motivation was that there must be some girl on this planet, like if not millions or billions, there must be one girl on this planet who will relate to it. And it happened, Molly. And after the release of my first book, I got so many emails from a young girl, and they felt, that they felt motivated, and then they felt, oh, I was thinking that my life is not good. And then I read the story of the former president of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and the way she has faced her life. I think my life is good. So she got that bump.
That is really amazing. And as a teenage girl, just hearing you talking right now, you're already like inspiring me and making me want to go write and do all the things.
You must do.
Yes, definitely.
And I'm so proud of you that you, being a teenager, have a podcast.
Oh,
and this and that. This is so good, This is exactly is your power. That you can talk to people, and then, it just puts you on a very different pedestal.
Yeah, well, thank you. And once again, thank you for coming on. This is so cool. So what has it been like interviewing people to write a book about them? Because I'm assuming after that first book, when all those interviews kind of came together, did you like start to realize, oh, I need to interview to write their story?
Yes. I had to interview. I could have just written about them without interviewing them, but then I wanted to have the personal touch. Anyone can write about a person and an entire biography, but for me, if I am working on a book, then I need to know the person. I need to sit with that person. I need to sit with that person to make him remember his or her childhood days, and we will start from there. The memories which are not there in the conscious mind, but maybe the memories which are there in the subconscious mind, to actually trigger those memories and to ask them, do you remember that what you used to do when you were a 4-year-old or 5-year-old, or what you wanted to become during that time? So we start from there. I personally start from there, because if I'm writing about someone, I need to know that person at a very deeper level so that I don't, so that I can take a decision. Number one, that if I can write about this person, number two, that will make me comfortable and that will make that person comfortable to know, to have that faith that yes, her story is in good hands and she's not going to twisted, and she is or for human values, and that is why. So I think talking to them, and not once, not twice, sometimes I had to interview the same person 8 times because I need more. Okay. So what were you, so at like fifth grade, so what were you wanted to do when you were in fifth grade? And then, the laureate or a prime minister say, "Oh, I wanted to become this." So then I see the pattern in their mind that, okay, so what all they wanted to become as a child, and now what they've become. So it's just about trying to analyze it.
Is so fascinating. I can totally, now that you're saying it, because I was reading your book about Jacinda Ardern, and I can totally see that. One of my favorite parts in that one was when you were talking about how she used to want to be a clown.
Oh, yes.
I love that.
Yes. Oh, I love that's my favorite.
That's amazing.
That's my favorite. And I'm telling you, Molly, that's a top secret. But I'm telling you, she said much more than that, okay? But that was not included in the book. And I was like, hey, these are emotions. You got to include it. So, and then when I was asking her, I kind of asked her that, so Madam Prime Minister, when you were a kid, what do you want to become? And then she said, Supriya, I wanted to become a clown. I said, what? I said, why? And she said, because I wanted to make children happy. Oh, I cannot express. I was so choked. And she was choked. And both of us we were very calm because only I understand majority of the journalists in our world today, they give more importance to the numbers. Okay, this politician won by this number, or like there was a huge victory mark. Okay, how much Labour is doing and how much National Party is doing, who said what, and And here is a prime minister telling me that she wanted to become a clown. And then she said when she was in 8th grade, she had a journal about it, and then I started visualizing her. The younger Jacinda in a clown attire, trying to speak to the young kids and try to make them laugh. So I think that actually shows her heart, that you can become a prime minister and yet not leave the childlike innocence in you, not leave the purity of the heart in you, and have the best intentions for the world.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is almost an important part of being a political figure, like having that, like being a good political figure. Is having that empathy and like trying to to make people happy and like bring joy.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And I am so happy that you love that clown part, because that is my favorite part.
It was so sweet. Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned that she said other stuff too, and you decided to leave it out of the book.
I didn't decide to leave it. I wanted to add everything possible, but when you're working on a book, sometimes you don't have the complete say on what goes in the book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, and I'm telling you the fact, but that's okay. I'm telling you the fact. Sometimes you don't have the complete say.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to add everything.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, how did you decide like what things to keep and what things to leave out? And were there any parts that like she said a story and you're like, oh no, this fully does not fit into like it was kind of random or anything like that?
For me personally, Molly, if I'm interviewing someone and if I'm, number one, it takes months and years, sometimes years, sometimes months, depending on the situation. to get an interview, number one, because for a government leader, for a world leader, sometimes you need to go for the protocol and request an interview and all. And same with the Nobel laureates, it takes a lot of time to actually convince them that they should give you an interview. Okay. And when they give, so whatever time I have, I try to use it fully, and whatever they say, I want to include everything, like everything. But then when you write in the book, it is then sometimes it's the call of editors. Sometimes it is a call of the other people involved in the book, that the book cannot be that long, or else the book will be 400 pages if you include all these points. But for Battling Injustice, I try to put everything possible, whatever all the Nobel laureates said. But for Jacinda Ardern, there were certain sections where I didn't want it to leave out, but it was not in my hands. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use those interviews for a public media, and I'm going to circulate in the public platform to tell more about Jacinda. So maybe that's the kind of way of telling, okay, what's her stand on gender equality? Jacinda Ardern stand on gender equality. Jacinda Ardern stand on gun violence or stuff like that. So how do we pick? And if the prime minister or the world leader, the same thing. Oh, I'm sorry. If a world leader or Nobel laureate says something which I feel that is not going with the book and it's pretty random, that really doesn't really happen, to be very honest, because they've given so many interviews, so they are pretty polished, that way, what to tell and what not to tell. So obviously nobody's going to spill the beans and say, hey, you know what, I did this during that time. So they are pretty cautious. But when you interview 2 or 3 times or more than that, then they become more easy and more comfortable. At that time, you can really dig for more. Because then they know you. Yeah, then they know you. Yeah.
Well, what sort of things do you do to build up rapport between the people that you're talking to?
What sort of what?
What sort of things do you use? Like, do you have any tricks or anything to build rapport between them and you?
Tricks is, I don't know what kind of tricks, Molly. When I interview someone, I first try to understand that person, and I try to imagine that person in my mind, that, okay, I wish to know about this person. Who is she, or like, who is he? And I try to understand at my own level. So when you understand someone at a very deeper level without being in touch with that person, and then when you meet with that person, I think it's just a spiritual thing to say that you know who the other person is. It doesn't matter what kind of a social status they are on. And then you kind of match their vibrational frequency, if I may say. I know you're going to say, what is that?
I actually know about that. When you could explain it for our listeners, but I know that.
You know that? Yes, I do that. I try to match their vibrational frequency. That is why I get the interviews. Some people don't get the interviews, and I'm not complimenting myself. No. What I'm trying to say, because I know that it's like Wayne Dyer once said that the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the way I look at a person, the way I look at the person I wish to interview, if I see that person out of full respect and out of love, and I say, okay, I'm going to interview, then automatically this will increase my own personal vibrational frequency. And oh my God, I'm going on a very different topic.
No. I understand. And as an interviewer, I kind of do the same thing where I'm like, okay, got to learn about this person to try and like develop like a rapport almost in my head. Like, okay, kind of know how this is going to go, what to say. Like,
yeah, exactly. And when you understand that person, and when you are having this kind of emotions in your heart, feelings is the key. Because if you have the feelings and if you can connect with that person, that interview comes easily to you. Why? Because number one, that you could connect with that person's spiritual being, if I may say so.
Mm-hmm.
I like some people come and interview a person, but they might not remember you after a few years. But in order to create an impact in their mind that they can remember that I was interviewed by this person, they need to go beyond this our like typical journalistic standards, hey, how are you? Okay, come here. Okay, what? We are going to interview this person, but they need to they gotta be more careful about that person's desires or childhood desires so that you can, and so that when you connect to that person, then that person will feel so good. It just feels good that, okay, that this person has done some good research on me, and that person means business, in some way.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So on this book, you work with a co-writer. How did you two decide to work together on this project?
Yeah, actually, Carl was one of my editor for my previous book, Battling Injustice. So I was not, I was not having Carl in my mind when I started this project in Jacinda Ardern, because I had this whole dream to interview Jacinda in 2017. Can you imagine that?
Oh, wow. I mean, because of COVID, that feels like 20 lifetimes ago.
Oh my God. Yes, exactly. So it was in 2017. I started having these thoughts about interviewing the prime minister in 2017, and so I started approaching, the embassy in India during that time, the New Zealand embassy in India, and then I started working on it. And I approached the prime minister. So it took a long time for me to actually, because she was pregnant. So I had to wait for 1 year to actually, for her to get back to the office. And then in 2019, I thought, okay, so this book looks huge. So I think I would need a help in this book, because I wouldn't be able to do it quickly, because my battling injustice took me 6 years. So I thought, why not to have someone as an editor? Actually, I thought in my mind, and then go with Carl. But then Carl said, hey, why did you make a co-author instead, and then we can work together? So I had him as an editor in my mind, but then he said, let's become a co-author. So I said, fine, go for it. And then we collaborated, and he's super cool, and he's so good with his research and all. So so that really was great.
That is so awesome. And I think it really shines through too, that this was a project like that you had in your head. Like this was like a passion project, because sometimes memoirs and stuff like that can kind of feel like, oh, you got hired to do this and you don't know this, but like this, I think it really shines through that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. Okay, so what was the most surprising thing that you learned about Jacinda while writing this?
One thing is about the clown thing that you mentioned, because that was really, really awesome. Really. Yeah. Because that was the highlight. And you know what? I mean, I don't know, surprisingly, Molly, I do tell people, other media about it. Some of them can actually relate to it and some don't. But I say, hey, you don't know the depth of this. The depth of this statement is so huge, because she used to cry after seeing children without shoes. And when it happens as a child, when she used to see children without shoes, she used to cry. Why? The reason is simple, that she was very, very concerned about them. So that shows that how much she cares for her children. And then, often on our social media, she will post pictures of, children with like twisted trunks, like elephants with the twisted trunks. And all those, I mean, children do actually send her postcards and she will post on social media. Imagine how empowering it is for a child to see that my prime minister is actually, tweeting my drawing. How empowering is that for someone? And imagine the kind of confidence that person will actually gain, not actually person, but the child will gain after seeing that, you know what? My prime minister tweeted my picture. You know what? The prime minister tweeted my drawing. Although there was a cute bunny with some twisted ears, with a carrot and all, but that cute stuff. Another interesting fact, which is not there in the book, is Jacinda Ardern's father is a twin, identical twin.
That's very interesting.
I was actually speaking to Louise, that's Jacinda's sister, the elder sister of Jacinda, and then something happened. She said, "Do you know what?" I said, "What?" She said, "My father is having a twin." I was like, "What?" I said, "Identical twins." And I saw the picture. I said, "Oh my God, they're so cute." So, that's just the fun stuff about it.
Yeah.
Isn't it cool to have two identical fathers in your life?
That is very interesting. Because I don't think I've ever met twins. I'm just realizing that. I don't think I ever have. No, I have. I have, but no identical twins. And so that's just a very interesting thought to have like a father.
Yeah, and after that, I don't know. I started I started seeing twins everywhere. And I was like, okay, so am I really catching the vibrational frequency of the twin? Then I'm now just looking at twins. I just look at the bow, just written twins. Like, oh, what's happening?
You went too far on the vibrational frequency. Like you tuned in a little too much. And now it's all twins.
Yeah. But that's good to know, isn't it?
Yeah. And when you were saying that stuff about how she was posting on social media, that really is so incredible that she would take that, because someone who lives in the US, that's really a nice breath of fresh air, like something to hear about, that seeing as the election that we just had and all of that. So it's like, oh, look, there are good world leaders who actually care about people. And
yes. I mean, and the way she will go and hug people, embrace people, Molly, you can understand that whether that hug is genuine or not. And she is all a genuine, compassionate leader. And she told me particularly that I came into politics for the sake of children. She said, because politics is a place where you can make a change. And it's perceived as an ugly place. Mm-hmm. So how do we attract women to actually join the politics? But they can only, and then make them comfortable that it's not an ugly place. We can actually make a good change by becoming a politician. So yes, you're right. There are good politicians and bad politicians, but
And it just really, really is so amazing, all of the work that she does and that you're doing to educate more people about her. Because I did not personally know much about her until I was reading this book. And I was like, oh, she is absolutely fascinating and like such an incredible figure and person.
Yeah. I mean, if you just search for her images also about the way she hugged the victims of the Christchurch episode, you will understand her emotions, her compassion, and you will feel one with her. So you know her equally. I think like that.
Yeah, I'm actually, after this interview, I'm gonna go and look that stuff up for sure.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Well, this has really been so amazing. I'm so glad that I got to talk to you today. I just have one more question.
Sure.
And that is, what do you have coming up?
Oh, well, yes, it's a very interesting question. I am now working on my solo project, and it's about the young girls, for the world. So it's a kind of a very different project which I've never I have never done. This is not going to be a biography or some world leaders memoir or something, but this is something which is more about inspiring young girls. And because I just go with this tagline that young girls and women can change the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I am trying my best to pass this message to the young girls that young girls and women can change the world, and doing a project on that. And what's the project is, it's going to take time for that. And so when it's going to be ready, I'm definitely going to let you know about it. But it's just in the pipeline right now.
That is so cool. I'm going to read that the second that it comes out. I'm very excited for that. Yeah. Well, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Molly. You have a beautiful beaming face, and I have to, yeah. And there is so much light in you. I'm so happy, and I'm so sorry that it's been that I wish I could have known you before, so that I could have shared my previous book also with you.
Well, we can always do another interview for any future ones if you want to talk about more stuff. I've had people on twice before, so
yeah, sure.
Anytime the door is open if you want to come back on.
Sure. We actually need youngsters like you. The world needs people like you, because at your age, if you're interviewing, authors, and you're trying to understand, it's not about interviewing, but what you're doing is so phenomenal, and why your podcast is so important than any other podcast is why, number one, from you that you are a teenager, you're actually giving a signal out to the generation of your age that they can get information about things which they're not aware of, and maybe imbibe little things, maybe from Jacinda, maybe from some Nobel laureates, and try to work on and pass this message of peace and love.
Thank you. And I think what you're doing is even more incredible, because you're reaching so many people and doing so much incredible work with your books. And I know that you've inspired me, and I'm sure that you have inspired millions of young girls.
Oh, thank you so much, Molly. It means a lot, because this is the true worth of my work. It's not about how many copies, get sold or, of my books, but I want to make as many young girls happy and contented in their life that we can do it. We can slay it.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Yeah. Yes. For Read Between the Lines, my name is Molly Southgate.
And my name is Supriya Vani.
Let's end this the way all great stories end. Happily ever after. The end.
Thank you for listening to Read Between the Lines, a book podcast. This episode is hosted by Molly Southgate. It is edited by Rob Southgate and produced by Southgate Media Group. You can get in touch with the show at readbetweenthelines@gmail.com, or you can send us a voicemail at 708-887-9473. That was 708-887-9473. You can also find us on Instagram at Read Between the Lines Podcast. Thank you so much for listening.